Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of the Napoleonic Order, a series where France wins the Napoleonic Wars. Now, first off, this is just a disclaimer. This isn't meant to offend anybody, and this isn't meant to be realistic either. So, if you like realistic alternate history content, then, I don't know, go watch some other stuff. I don't know. I don't know what you like specifically, but, just go watch something else if this is too unrealistic for you. But now with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get to the episode itself. So yeah, the year's 1812, and much like our timeline, the continental system, led by France, is controlling most of Europe. Britain and France are at war, and Spain is essentially a massive guerrilla war battleground between France and the Brits. So, how does France win the Napoleonic Wars, you might ask? Well, it begins back in 1805. At Trafalgar, instead of France being defeated by Britain, France wins resoundingly against Britain. They capture and destroy much of the fleet. Nelson ends up dead, and the fleet retreats to Britain. Now France starts building up their fleet. They start building up their fleet after this. They begin preparing for an invasion of Britain. And in 1812, around about February, the invasion of Britain would begin. About January of 1812, Napoleonic forces, utilizing their growing navy, prepare to invade Britain. Now, Napoleon himself leads the invasion force. Their plan is to land at Dover and all over the south of England, and then advance up from there, take London, take the other major cities, and knock out Britain, and invade Ireland as well. So on February 1st, Napoleonic forces land on Dover. They quickly encircle the city, and after a heavy battle, Dover falls. Subsequently, Napoleonic forces begin ravaging Kent and the region around it, capturing Hastings. Meanwhile, along the coast, Cornwall and the Isle of Wight slowly come under control of Britain. Now, after the invasion of Cornwall, other massive attacks begin along the British coastline. However, one of the most significant ones is a landing on the Isle of Wight, which eventually leads to the capture of both Southampton and Portsmouth. Now, Britain's government begins completely panicking at the invasion. French naval forces begin to secure naval domination as further attacks in Cornwall begin. Then Napoleonic forces prepare to seize London. They begin slow advances along the Thames towards London, and the British government evacuates. But it is extremely chaotic. It is bad. The king gets left behind, and the government flees all the way north to York. While the king eventually ends up in York, the French still are able to invade London. The Duke of York, one of Britain's military leaders, prepares to battle for London, and the Battle of London begins. French forces encircle the city, and a massive urban conflict for a few weeks occurs, ultimately ending with the fall of Westminster and the capitulation of the United Kingdom's forces in London. While the country has not yet fallen, their capital has. With that, Britain is effectively left in complete chaos. Napoleonic forces round back south and head head to destroy more forces in Kent and secure control. Along with this, French forces begin a massive offensive, led by Napoleon himself, to cut off East Anglia and invade it. They ultimately reach their goal, and French forces also head north for Oxford and Northampton. Now, French forces continue pushing in. They capture regions of East Anglia and soon begin attack on Colchester. So, now Napoleon burnt down London. Like, he effectively left nothing left of it except like Big Ben, the Parliament of Westminster, and a few other buildings. Like, it was bad. Like, London was just completely burnt to the ground. And Napoleon declares that he will be the King of England and rule from Colchester. Now, the British government is very happy about this, but they can't do anything considering that Napoleon is, well, invading the country and is doing very good at it. So, yeah. Also, Norwich and Cambridge fall along with Ipswich. And with that, most East Anglian cities have fallen. With this tightly packed area of cities now taken, Napoleonic forces effectively secure naval dominance over this region of England and continued their attacks along the shores. Ultimately, forces in East Anglia attempt to hold out, but are pushed back significantly. Meanwhile, French forces in Portsmouth and Southampton link up and head for the Napoleonic forces in Oxford, linking up with them and taking Oxford. Shortly after, Northampton also falls, and Napoleonic forces also wipe out that small holdout. Meanwhile, French forces begin large offensives, and the Battle of Bristol begins in about May. The Battle of Bristol lasts for about a month until June, when it falls. Meanwhile, during that time, French forces continued along the coast of Cornwall, and a massive link-up operation occurred, which ultimately saw the linking up of the forces in Cornwall with these other southern forces. Shortly after, they attack and wipe out this piece of Britain. With this, Britain's government is starting to panic. Like, it's not good. Like, Britain's government is in complete mayhem. Like, the Prime Minister doesn't know what to do, and things are complete chaos. The Prime Minister, who I think was Lord Liverpool, I'm not too sure, but I've heard of him being related to the Napoleonic era and the war against Napoleon. Other than that, like, let's just say he's the Prime Minister. So, yeah, he's Prime Minister, and he doesn't know what to do. Like, he is not doing things very well. Despite him being very vocal about wanting to remove France from British soil, he doesn't know how to do it, because all of his military commanders are essentially incompetent, and all of the actually good ones have either been captured or are in complete retreat from the front lines due to Napoleonic victories. Along with this, the Oxford and Northampton militaries establish a link-up, and they head for Coventry and Birmingham. They capture Coventry, however Birmingham is much harder to take, seeing a siege. Meanwhile, French forces capture this small inlet area, and French forces continue heading across the coast. They land near Hull and begin a siege of the city. The Battle of Hull lasts for quite a few days. It ultimately ends in Napoleonic victory, like most of the other battles. By now, only a few naval battles and a few land battles are actually resulting in British victories. Here, British forces defend this island from French invasion and push back the French navy. However, it is cold comfort, seeing as how the mainland is being mostly occupied. Shortly after, the forces in Bristol round around this river, which I think is called like the Gloucester River? I'm not too sure. But like they invade Cardiff and capture it before laying siege to Swansea. Shortly after, the invasion of Wales begins, and the forces remaining in Bristol head out the city and capture Birmingham along with other French forces. Now they all begin heading into Wales. Now they put a lot of focus on Wales because it is a major holdout of the British government. There's still a lot of military forces here, and they're likely not going to give up without a fight. So French forces continue to fight in this region. After Swansea is taken, massive offensives occur. A link-up with the sea occurs as French forces wipe out this bit of Wales, and they begin their invasion of the Welsh countryside. They invade the Isle of Anglesey and continue their attacks across the shores. Liverpool, cities such as Liverpool are now under threat, along with the cities of Sheffield and Manchester. And with Hull captured, there's little stopping French forces, led by Napoleon himself, from attacking Scarborough. Now the British government, seeing that the French are heading for them, decides to evacuate further north, fleeing to the city of Edinburgh. Now this was a good decision on their part, because just a few days later, French forces capture Scarborough and march straight for York and effectively capture the city with little resistance. With the fall of York, British government forces are effectively left unable to do anything. Like, it is not good. Like, they aren't able to do out. With Britain's capabilities here effectively wiped out, they begin evacuating their forces. While holdouts continue to hold out in Wales, French forces link up with each other and effectively split the front line up between themselves. The front line is now effectively not in the favour of Britain. Like, it is not really in the favour of Britain at all. With this, British forces begin to be destroyed one by one in these little pockets. First, they focus on the biggest pockets and the smallest ones, before focusing on the more medium ones. Ultimately, by the time offensives begin on the entire front line and anti-resistance operations in these regions begin, only about 2 holdouts are left, and they have been majorly reduced. With this, French forces sweep up into the north, capturing Liverpool. Along with this holdout between Oxford and Northampton is wiped out, and this holdout in East Anglia is destroyed. With things not going well for Britain, nations across the world start to take note, especially the US. However, they don't do what you might think they'll do. Instead of initiating the War of 1812 earlier, rather they decide to sit back and hope that French victory in Britain will allow them to sweep into Canada and take control with little issue. However, they are willing to compromise with France on Canada, as Napoleon decides that the Quebecois, being French speakers, should be a part of the French Empire. Now, with this, a lot of things start to go wrong for Britain. This falls along with all of Wales, and the British Navy is effectively wiped clean from the Welsh coastline, with Wales effectively ripped apart. With Wales effectively ripped apart by French forces and it occupied by the French forces continue to head into the south, capturing all of the holdout regions. Soon after, they begin massive offensive against this region in particular, effectively pushing it to the brink of falling, with the British general in charge there not being able to do anything about Napoleonic advances. Now, with things starting to deteriorate significantly for British government forces, many generals in these surrounded regions begin to effectively become warlords, paying lip service to the monarchy. This leads to complete disorganization in the royal army, as a lot of generals simply declare themselves warlords. While they are loyal to the British government somewhat, they effectively only pay lip service to them, as they control these lands as warlords in the name of the monarchy. With this, the French Empire has secured control over all of the south of England. Now it's essentially just a clean-up operation for the French, and soon after, Napoleon begins a grand campaign in Ireland. Now, despite the most recent Irish uprising in 1798 about having failed, and having been like a few decades ago at this point, Irish people are still angry at the British administration of the island. And so when Napoleonic forces land here, French forces are greeted with jubilee and celebration by the Irish populace. Many Irishmen switch sides to the Brits, the French, and Waterford is fallen. With the fall of Waterford, this caused a massive shake-up in Ireland. As in Limerick, a meeting of different Irish people results in the declaration of the Irish Republic. Declared, and yes, I know this isn't the actual flag of Ireland, so wait a minute. Of the Irish Republic in Limerick. Soon they side with the French and seize control of a good deal of the Limerick area. With their alliance with France, French forces begin to push back. French forces occupy Dublin, and Napoleon himself begins a massive campaign northwards. Meanwhile, uprisings of Irish people all across Ireland begin against the British administration. Ireland seizes control of a lot of Munster, while control over Connaught and other regions begins to wane for the British as well. With massive Irish uprisings across the country, France takes opportunity of this and utilizes their navy to crush British holdouts on the sea. With the French navy having reduced the British to ashes, and with Francia now ruling the seas, Britain isn't going to exactly recover from this. So yeah, France, they're doing quite well actually. As they invade north, the Irish forces cut off a large contingent of British forces here and crush them completely. After that, Napoleon agrees to give over Dublin and Waterford to the Irish in exchange for allowing his forces to occupy the northern region of Ireland, which will be handed over to them at the end of the conflict. Now, French forces then give over control in these regions of Ireland, and the Irish government moves into Dublin. With this, Irish rebels seize control over this entire little region of the country. Like, what is it called? Donegal? Yeah, it's called Donegal, I think. So yeah, with that, French forces, essentially clean up the rest. They begin a massive siege at Belfast. They begin a massive siege at Belfast, while French forces effectively secure their position across Ireland. With Ireland effectively under the control of the Irish Republic, and Napoleonic forces clearing it up, Irish forces attack Londonderry and capture it before effectively declaring victory. Yeah, the leaders of Ireland declare victory over the Brits by this point, as the British have been effectively reduced to their only remaining holdout of Belfast. Any remaining British and Irish units in the Ulster region surrender, not wanting reprisal, and ultimately French forces seize control of the region as promised. With that, French forces wipe out the British units, and after a long siege, Belfast falls. With the fall of Belfast, the Irish gain control over this entire region in the north of Ireland. And with Ulster now under the control of Ireland, surely there will not be any more sectarian violence to come. Hopefully. Right? Yeah, I'm sure there won't be any sectarian violence happening in this region. Anyways, so, yeah. As French forces attack the Isle of Man, they capture it and besiege Douglas, which is captured. With that, British forces have been effectively reduced to the north. With this, a massive offensive occurs, which sees a massive general offensive across France. I meant Britain. While, yeah, there aren't any front lines at this point in history, there aren't really front lines don't really exist at this point in history. I don't know. So, yeah. Britain just got absolutely decimated. Oh, God. I don't think they'll be able to recover from this by this point. So, Hartlepool and these regions near Middlesbrough fall, and soon a siege of Newcastle upon Tyne and Northumberland and this Northumbrian region in general occurs. French forces then enter Scotland. They enter the Scottish borderlands and they capture Dunbar, preparing to invade the rest. Meanwhile, French forces effectively flush out any remaining British resistance, and the final major holdout of British forces in England, Carlisle, falls, as British forces there are effectively wiped out, except for that Northumbrian pocket. With that, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland has been reduced to the United Kingdom of Scotland, essentially, because they don't have most of their territories anymore. Like, they've lost Ireland, they've lost England, they've lost Wales, so yeah, it's very unfortunate for them. Especially for me, because I live in the United Kingdom. But regardless, Edinburgh, yeah, by then the British government had already fled to Inverness. Yeah, things aren't going well. Oh yeah, the Duke of Northumberland, or Earl of Northumberland, or whatever his title is. He holds out in Newcastle, but it doesn't do much difference because, well, he essentially just has Newcastle at this point as a part of his domain. And then he gets shot by a sharpshooter and Newcastle falls. Yeah. Okay then, with that, British forces have effectively collapsed. Like, cohesion has effectively completely gone. Like it is not good. Like, British forces have lost all cohesion. Like, their morale just doesn't exist anymore. And, like, you know how Britain had a good army and one of the mightiest navies on the planet? Well, yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. Literally doesn't exist anymore. In the north, Danish forces actually seized the Shetlands. You wouldn't believe that Danish forces, along with the French, would seize the Shetlands, but they have. So with the Danish fleets escorted by the French and French soldiers seizing the Shetlands, Britain is not good anymore. Like, they aren't going well. And thus, Glasgow falls. With the fall of Glasgow, Napoleon decides that his work is done, and he leaves Britain and heads to Paris. By now, I'd say it's the beginning of around 1814-ish? I don't know, maybe it's the beginning of 1815, maybe it's late 1814, I don't know. I'm just gonna say that it's the beginning of 1814. With that, yeah. French generals just don't really advance with any care anymore. Aberdeen is seized by the middle of March, and in Inverness, just before French forces bombard the city with artillery, the Prime Minister gives a speech to the people, asking them to resist French rule. And he subsequently boards a ship with the royal family and all of Parliament, and he heads to Brazil with his Portuguese allies, who are in exile in Brazil. Yeah, with that, British forces have effectively fallen, as with the fall of Inverness, British forces are effectively wiped out. With this, clean-up operations occur across the islands, and with the remains of the United Kingdom crumbling and effectively being restricted to its colonies, the UK effectively ceases to exist. With the United Kingdom's fall and with the capitulation of remaining UK forces, the French Empire has achieved victory over Britain and have won the Battle of Britain. Well, the first Battle of Britain of probably many. Well, actually, I know how many battles of Britain there'll be because I've planned out the series already. Regardless, yeah. Anyways, with that, next episode will be about what happens after this, and how just before Britain fell, the Prime Minister arranged for the nations of Russia, Prussia, Austria, and I think like a few others, to declare war on France. This begins the War of the Sixth Coalition, and despite Britain having fallen by that point, well, they aren't going to just renege on their promises, or will they? I don't know. Well, actually, they wouldn't, because they do want revenge on France for utterly humiliating them during the coalition wars before it. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you made it this far into the video, then I'm glad you'll like it. I don't know if you do like it, but I hope you do. And I'll see you in the next episode, hopefully. See you later. Bye-bye.